great to have people back on. It's really appreciated that you've attended this evening, and I really hope this is something that you can use whether with staff or with students. It's something that I've done previously in the past, and now I'm kind of looking at, and I spoke with Beth about going, let's make it bigger. Let's make it bigger. Um, for those who haven't attended one of these sessions before, they are quite informal and relaxed. What I'll do is I'll tend to just guide through a range of different software and ideas. But one of the things I really do appreciate and love, and makes my job actually a lot easier, is if you've got any questions or queries, put them in the chat box or the Q&A box, because we want these sessions to be something which are going to benefit you guys. And actually, some of the ideas that you have, or can it do this, can it do that, or I've got an idea here, really help me, because I'm not always going to be aware of different things, and there are lots of different things that I'm going to forget, I can assure you. What we've got planned today is to look at scavenger hunts, or as they're called, interactive virtual experiences, or IVX, if you want a really posh word for it. So you can call it a scavenger hunt, or if you want to sound posh, you can go for an IVX experience. And what these are, in a very simple method, are a way of engaging students or even staff with critical learning experiences which are quite active based. And they do involve technology, but at the same time, I'm also going to look at how we can create scavenger hunts using digital tools that don't have to rely on technology. So if you're not in a setting that has access to things such as Padlets or mobile devices, you can still engage and prepare and create scavenger hunts for your classroom. So I'm going to show you a way of different things. We're going to go through 2 online tools which create automatic scavenger hunts, and then I'm going to walk through how we can use AI technology to help create interactive scavenger hunts, and look at things like a more simpler, like a low-tech version of just simple QR codes, dynamic and static QR codes that you may want to use. If at any point I do go a bit too quick, I do have a tendency to blah, 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 blah. Please drop me a message, and I'm more than happy to go back through the work. So let us begin. Hopefully you should be able to see my screen. If you could just give me a thumbs up in the chat box, that'd be fantastic. If you could hopefully see something that says create delightful experiences for recreation. If you can see that, just say yes, or give me a thumbs up. Yes, thank you. Love it, brilliant. So the first one I'll look at is actually quite funny, because I found this a while ago, and I had it as a post-it note. I've got a board up here above my desk, and it's I had on this post-it note, goose chase. And it took me a while to realize, why the devil have I got that on a post-it note above my desk? Well, we're going to look at it now. So goosechase.com is quite a nice, simple introduction to scavenger hunting and creating scavenger hunts. It requires 2 key things for this to work. Firstly, the online platform, which is where you create and design it. But then you will need to download on a mobile device, it's a free app, Goose Chase. So if you want people to engage and do the activity, they will need it on an iPad or Android device or a mobile device. So it works on Android or Apple iOS software. So that's the 2 things. From a pricing perspective, it is unlimited, but you have a number of teams that you can have. So if you have more than 10 teams, then you need to pay for it. But if you can say you've got 20 in a class and they pair up or things like that, you can do it, and it's absolutely free. So that's one of the main benefits of it. So let's get started. So I've logged in just using a Gmail account. I'm going to call this, and they call each scavenger hunt an experience. So we're going to give this a name to start with. So let's call this one, I don't know, Education Induction Day. Give it a name, because you'll be amazed at how often you create them and then you forget which one. It also helps later on because as you build experiences, you may want to use clues and questions you've used previously in other future quizzes. So that's always quite useful. So that's, of course, induction day activity for class 6H. There we go. We can put a location in there. So this is, you put a location in, say, for example, because one of the things we're going to look at is GPS locators. So some of these you may need to be in a certain place to do it. So let's say, for example, I've done this one for Irvig, the National Trust site, which is just down the road from me. I'm going to put that in there. It just means that when I'm doing the maps and stuff, it takes me straight to it. And also people are aware as to where they have to be to do this. Now, the password is really kind of useful because when you create it on Goose Chase, you want it to be sometimes private to your students and your participants, especially if they're taking photos, which you can do with this one. So I may put a password on there so that only those with the password can access and play the game and be part of it and share ideas. So it's quite a good little safety feature that they put on it. I'm going to not put a password on this one because more than likely I will forget. So let's look from our main home screen. So just from the start, we're going to go to missions. We're going to look at script later on. Branding is if you want to add different photos, so maybe you want to put your school on there. Maybe you want to put some rules in the terms of service. So this is kind of like you may want to put some ground rules in there that come up at the start. So it can be like, don't go beyond the red fence and wherever it is, bits and pieces like that. And then participants, this is where you get to choose. So you can have it in teams and a solo. And what you can also do with this one is you can create teams. So let's say, for example, you've already got in your head how they're going to be together. Say I'm going to have Team Jeff, and I can give them a code. Create that one. I'm going to create another team. It's going to be Team Anne. So when students log in, they'll go, right, I'm on Team Anne or I'm on Team Jeff. So, you know, this is mostly for the points sort of thing. So you can set this up all from the beginning. So I've got Team Anne and Team Jeff. I'm not going to allow them to create their own teams because I want them to be within the groups that I've given them. You can also set it as a solo experience if they've each got their own device to take part. And then you've got the start and end. So the start and end, this, the other kind of benefit of this, you can do it as an asynchronous activity or a synchronous activity. So it doesn't have to be something that they do purely while you're there. Maybe it's like a little activity you want them to do when they're at home on a weekend. It's a little game to do over the weekend or over the summer holidays. You can set a schedule for it, so you can actually have it open and start on a certain time, or manual, which is when you set the experience, which we're going to get to later on. So let's get started with our missions. Now, each question that the students will do, they'll call it a mission for this one. So we can add manual missions. And then once we go down to here, we can select what type of mission it is. So the first question may be they've got to get a photo. So we're going to call this one a mission name. So this could be, I don't know, find the cat. And we can give it a certain amount of points. So let's say they get 500 points and we put in there, find a picture, or no, take a picture for cat. Lots of different things we can put in this one. We can accept submissions as photos and videos, or we can say just photos only. They can take live capture, or they can take it from, if they've already got a photo in their phone, they can use that as well. We're just going to go for live capture only because I want them to take the photo. There we are. And then once we're happy with that, save changes. So when they get out on the scavenger hunt, what it'll do is it'll come up and say, find a picture of a cat. And they'll get their phone. It comes up on the app and they'll take a picture and boom, job done. They get a picture. We're going to come back to how that works later on. What other things can we do with this one? Let's go down. So the next one afterwards is text mission. Now, text mission is where we can start to engage in other different ways and bits and pieces here. So we can have mission name, which is what is a safety device or safety thing we have in the school. Let you put this one in here. So say it's going to be 400 points. Provide a written answer to a safety thing we have in the school. Your wording will be much better than mine. Now we can, with any sort of text one, you can actually ask for specific written answers. So let's say, for example, it's got to be, say, fire extinguisher. We can add additional ones. So maybe it's like first aid kits. Helps if you can actually spell it correctly. First aid kit, you know, YZ, those sorts of things. And then we click Save Changes. The great thing with this as well is you can put it as riddles or questions or quiz questions. So it doesn't, it doesn't just have to be something like that. You also don't even need to have an actual accepted answer there. So if I wanted to put a text in there, I could put in there, what is a safety element? Put the points in there. Dual safety element. There's got to be a more technical term for that. And I can just go, yeah, job done. I don't need to have an actual answer that means it's correct. It can just be an open, honest discussion for the students. So it doesn't have to be just about getting it correct. It can be what their opinion is. And again, when you're back in the room and you're reviewing them as a group, you get that chance to really share it. Other ones that we've got here are GPS missions. And GPS missions are really useful, especially if you're going to, say, like a larger venue. Maybe you're going to, like I said, Irving National Trust, or maybe you're going to the zoo or something like this. Now, what you do with the GPS missions is we set a location. Now, I can search for a specific area. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go to Irving, which so now find it on my map. So you can just type it in. You can just type it in here. Actually, it's a lot easier. There we go. And I can zoom in. So there's the National Trust. Now, one thing you will need here is, you can move this little marker where you want it to go exactly. So it's within 100 meters. Now, I can actually make that radius a little bit smaller. So if I wanted to get rid of that, let's go to where Irving is. There's National Trust Irving. And I can go to an exact spot. And I can go, okay, well, that's the front of the Irving place. So I can just click there, bish, bash, bosh. If I don't want it to be there, say, for example, I want it to be at one of the gardens. They are the Druid statue. I'll just click there. And then once I'm happy, I'll hit set location. That is, I'm happy with that. There's my location. I'm going to try that again because it's not giving me fun. Let's just pop that one in there. There we go. And I can add the question in here. So find the Druid statue, 400 points. I can add a photo as well for this. So say, for example, the students are really kind of going, I have no idea where that is. I can put a photo on it, and that can be a clue to help with the location thing. The great thing with this is when they have it on their phone, what it comes up with is like a little compass. So it gets them to move about. Brilliant. So when on the mobile device, will it read the questions to the pupils? Yeah, really great question that. This is the one limitation from an accessibility point of view. It doesn't read them back to it. It is a read-only sort of tool. But what we can look at with this is once you've created it, you can actually download it as a PDF, and maybe you want to put that on Microsoft Office or something which can read it back to you. That is one of the limitations of it. When you put it in, it doesn't read the answers back, nor does it have a translation one. But great question. Thank you, Laura. Much appreciated. Now, if you're really struggling, you're trying to think of, oh, I can't think of any sort of questions or anything, it does have these pre-made missions. So what it has here, it has lots of different ideas. You may want to look through and go, oh, I quite like that one. Photo a license plate, which has all the numbers summing up to exactly 11. Okay, I'm going to add that one there. And all I do is I add these ones to my existing missions that I have there. I can also go through my mission bank. So when you save a question that you have, or you say, for example, that you've got a previous one that you've used, you can take questions from it. And that's why I mean it's quite good to have an understanding as to what ones you've already made, especially if it stops you from having to replicate and repeat lots of different things. So we're happy with that. I'm happy with that. That's done. Now, the script element is quite good for us because the script element tells us what happens in what stage, because what they'll do is they'll do the questions as they go through. And you may look at it and go, actually, I want that one at the start and I want that one at the end, especially for where they're going. So I can go back to my missions and actually I can move them around if I want to. And, you know, that's the key thing for me. So I can go to add automation. I can have it moved down, or I can hide it. It allows for me to really kind of play around with where it is, and that's always quite useful. So once we're happy with this, we've created it. We're going to set a duration for how long it's going to last. So say I want it to be 45 minutes because I've got it set as manual at the moment, which is I will start it. If I want to schedule it for a specific time, so let's say, for example, I don't have my computer. Say we go out to the National Trust site, I don't have my computer. I can schedule it for a certain time and date to open and start. If I go manual, all I do then is I hit Start Experience. And you'll see now that's live. Now, when it's live, all I do, the students get their Goose Chase app and they use that join code that is there. Type that in and that'll get them straight onto my game. And that's absolutely fine. At the end of the day, all I then hit is End Experience and that stops it. So that means they can't provide any more answers or anything. What I can see from this, from a live perspective, say, for example, I got this set up in the school and they're going around, I can actually watch the answers as they come in live. So when I've done this in the past, I've had one big screen in the classroom and people can see the answers as they come through. And then we've got our leaderboard, which tells me how each team's getting on, how many points they've achieved, and then we can look at the submissions. So how long does it take to create a half-hour experience? 10, 15 minutes. Something like this, I use this for our induction for our university students to get them to know the campus. So we have things like find the DFib machine, find the Costa coffee shop, or mostly find the library, things like this. The software does reject curse words. You can set that up in the settings for it. So yeah, if they do want to put that in, it does get blanked out, unfortunately, because it is an education platform. But yeah, it's very easy to create. And I've had students of all ages from 8 years old up to, you know, the 60s, and they'll do that. Did you have a question, Maria? Sorry, I'm not sure if I saw your question. Uh, yeah, Goose Chase. The nice thing about it is the simplicity of it. It doesn't have a huge amount of features, but if you're looking for something that gives you a nice little insight into it, perfect tool. That's happy. Okay, so the next one I want to look at, that's okay, not at all, is Action Bound. Now, Action Bound is one that I've looked at before and I regularly do use actually. And it's a huge multimedia game. Very similar to Goose Chase. You download the app on your phone or your tablet device, and it works on Android and iOS. So when I've done this in the past, I've had to message the students beforehand and say, before you come on campus, make sure this is on your device, or pair up with somebody who has the device. So even if people don't have the tools, I'll share it around. Create it on your computer, as we're going to do this evening, and then you play it on the app. So what we'll start with, I've just logged in with my account and we're going to create a bound. So everything again, this is free for what we're using it for education purposes. As you can see here, I've used it for induction days in the past and my undergraduate induction days. I use it any opportunity I can really because it's a great way not just for staff to get important bits across, but it's a great team building exercise, and it's a lot more interesting way of getting them to do different tasks and activities than a worksheet or a spoken discussion, as I've done before. So let's say, for example, this one again, we'll call it team building day, and I can set this as single player or multiplayer. I'm going to set this one as multiplayer. Now with this one, you've got what's called fixed or selectable stages. Now, fixed means you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and you go through in any order. With the selectable ones, you can actually see all the potential questions that are there to answer. And I've had groups before who have gone, okay, well let's look at where the GPS ones are or where the question ones are. Maybe we'll answer those first. It seems weird, but it's quite a fun way to really get that competition going. And what I found with the selectable one as well, it means that the questions are kind of mixed up. So when I've sent groups off, they're not all just following the same path. In fact, some people's question 1 is actually their question 6 and so on. We're going to go selectable for this one, and we're going to create the bound. So very similar. We'll come to these little elements later on as we get back to it. Let's go back to our content, and we'll go to element. Now, as you'll see here down the side, there are a few more stages that you have as opposed to Goose Chase. So if we go to, let's say, for example, the first one is going to be a quiz question. Now, with this one here, we can actually put the question as a range of different things. Now, as I'm just going names here, sorry, Laura. So Laura, you asked, will it be able to read the questions to pupils? And this is where Action Bound is a level up from Goose Chase. This is where I'm saying it's a level up from it. In that actually your questions, you can upload audio files for this. So if you use a tool such as, if I just quickly show you one, Vocaroo. If you've not used Vocaroo before, it's a really easy audio recording software. So it can record your voice, save it as an MP3, and you can actually upload a audio file onto here so the question can be read. It's quite useful as well because I've had some of the questions in the past where I've had the questions have been in Welsh for the students, and actually that makes the quiz question a little bit more challenging for them. So they've got to start to think about, okay, what is that? So it's not always just nice and simple. How else can we do the questions? So they have mathematical symbols as well. So it doesn't just have to be kind of standard qualitative questions for them. It can be a little bit more fun and interesting ones. So let's put a quiz question up there. So the first quiz question: can you use either of these apps offline once set up and then upload later? Yeah, so with this one, this is the other thing that we're going to come to. Third activity should help as well. This one you will need some form of Wi-Fi or 3G or 4G mobile access for them to work. You can, once you've made them, actually download them as a PDF document. So if you know that you want to use the scavenger hunt, but you don't have the Wi-Fi access there, you can actually download it as a printout and give it to the students. The third thing I'm going to show you tonight, though, should help if you want to do something like this, but you don't have internet access. He says, he hopes it will. But great question. Thank you very much, Nikki. Much appreciated. So here's our simple quiz question. What year was the Battle of Hastings? I always do this. Everyone knows it. No one knows a lot of time the answer. Now, with the mode of answer, I can have it as solution, where they have to put an answer in. So it could be a mathematical answer, multiple choice, an estimate, or a sort list. So where they put things in order. So I may have a question such as, which country has the most amount of bicycles? Put them in order, and they have to go like, what's a song where it had lots of bicycles in it? Is there like Beijing and a million bicycles? I don't know pop music, but they could like have Holland and then England and so on. We're just going to go for solution input. I'm going to put the correct answer in there. I can also put a larger one if they want to get some advice. I can put that in there if they're really having any trouble. I can put little settings for it. So if they get with this one here, they have to get the answer right before they can move on to the next one. So sometimes you may want to have it where they don't have to get. If they don't get it right, they don't get the points, but they can continue to the next task. But you may want to have it as they've got to have the correct answer, and I can give them a certain amount of attempts. So maybe I can give them 5 attempts before they can progress, or else they're out of the game. So if you're going to do that, put the amount of attempts in first, then hit that one there, and it locks it in. I can also set penalties. So if they get it incorrect, they actually lose the amount of points they can potentially get. But I can add hints. Is there a way to differentiate the support for different groups? Yeah, great question, Claire. No, there isn't, unfortunately, on this one. And that's a really good point to have there. What I would say, if you're aware that different groups will need different things, maybe the third option that we have tonight will help if you will still want to do scavenger hunts, but still want to differentiate it for different learning groups. But really great point again. Thank you. I can set a time limit and so on, especially if you want them to hurry up and move around. So sometimes I'll put a time limit on and then I put add. There we go. That's what it'll look like on the mobile device. And that's all my details. So with the plus symbol, let's go to the next one. Now we can go here for the mission. Now I quite like the mission one because this is where we start to get a little bit more fun. And it's pretty much exactly the same as the one from Goose Chase, which is where you take a photo. So I've had it in the past where take a photo of your group in the shape of letters WGU. So I've had that before. So they all stand there like the YMCA gentlemen. So they can do it in a range of different ways. They can either upload a video. You can also have it as where they upload audio. So this goes back to earlier where you can have an audio question, but you can also have an audio answer. So with this one, you can upload audio. They actually record it into their phone. There's a little button that pops up. So say, for example, the question is, say this phrase in Welsh. They can upload audio of somebody taking it. I'm going to have it upload a picture, and I can either have it from the gallery that they may already have on their phone or the camera. So what that'll do then is it'll turn the camera on their phone and that uploads. I have a whole bank of some fantastic, because it's saved internally. You can delete them afterwards. I have some great photos of my students from the induction day that I show them on the final day for our like final day presentation of like their first day on campus and stuff. And for some of our students who've been with us for 3 years, it's quite interesting to see them. They do like those. So I've added that one there. The next option we've got here, now this goes back to the very much to the Irving one. This one I personally quite like because I think the detail's a little bit better than the other one. With Goose Chase, it's 50 meters is the smallest gap, which if I'm saying go find the defib machine or go find the library, they're all in the same spot, but I can be a little bit more accurate with this one. So say for example, I'm going to say find the Druid statue again. I can put a coordinate down and I can select this. So what this will do now, for some reason, it's throwing me all the way over in Berlin. I'm not sure why it thinks I'm in Berlin. You can type it in actually. So I can actually type in, let's go for find Wrexham. Yeah, find me in Wrexham. Okay. So put me in Wrexham. Now I've got to work out where Irving is. Days. All right, it's around here somewhere. There it is. Now, what it doesn't give you is the satellite image. So, when I've done this before, I've done it off a campus where I kind of know roughly where things are. I know the Druid statue is somewhat around here, but all you would do then is you just click, and you can see it's a lot more. The kind of radius is a little bit smaller. I hit OK for that one. What it's really great with this is it does mean that it comes up with a little compass again, and the group walk around and they follow it. It's just a fun little bits and pieces for them to do. So I can have it as a directional arrow, or I can have it to actually show a map, and they have to then navigate using a map. Quite a nice little fun thing to have. And I can also say they got to find the spot. So as they walk to the spot, once they're on that, it kind of logs that they've achieved the points and they've got them. Other features we have here. So say, for example, QR codes. We're going to look at QR codes in a bit later on. We've got other things where we've got things like surveys. So they may want to put a survey in there or a tournament. They've got tournaments here, which is where it's just a fun little challenge between people as they go through. So there we've created our game. We're quite happy with this one. Very much like with the other one, the simple thing here is if I want to have them at different levels, I can just move them down or I can move them up. I can copy and paste if I want to do it, or I can just simply delete it and change it. It's quite a nice little feature there. Go to my settings, add a fun image to it. I can hide the results or I can publish the results. So once they've completed at the end, it will tell them who's where on the leaderboard. I tend to hide the results because then what we do is we get them in the classroom, we have it as a little prize celebration, who's won what, and so on. And then I'm going to have it as selectable stages where they move around and for. And you can change the map if you want to make the map a little bit easier for them and so on. Once you've got that done, so we'll go back to our, there we go. It's currently offline. So we've got a few things which is quite good with this one for an accessibility point of view. So you can either print off the QR code, which when they get the app, they just scan it and they go from there. You can download it, download the nice instructions, which are quite good. But when we're happy, we just click. And there we go. So now it's live. So it now means that the students can access it, they can play it, and they can see the results as they come through. And I can see it live as it goes through. When I'm happy with it, I'm done. I'm going to take it offline. And that means that they can't access marks that they've got there. If I look at some of the bounds I've had in the past, so I'll just show you how the results look afterwards. So what I do is I wait for my internet to crash. There we go. So I can see my results from other teams. So here are teams that I've had who have done things in the past. There we go. And not too much there, luckily. So we had like you can see they took photos of themselves, module codes. They had to go find stuff, take a photo by my office door, contact. It was just a really fun little way of getting people involved in stuff. And what we'd hide within it were kind of the more serious questions that we needed. So things such as where's inclusion services, or which doc take a well, I think one of them was take a picture of a book that would be really useful for the rest of your studies or something like that. So it's quite a fun thing to have there. Okay, before I move on to the next one, are there any questions at all about Goose Chase or Action Bound? Because I'll be honest, some of the questions that come through have been fantastic and they're really appreciated. Any questions at all? I think the real key thing, you can see the difference between the Goose Chase one to Action Bound. Again, with something like this one here, we go to the content. You do have, I always pick Action Bound personally. I think it's because it has a lot more different options to play with. I think I like the fact that the questions that you have there, they can be image based, or I can put videos on there as well. So we've had ones in the past where so I can upload a video where I've had somebody saying the answer. I can put audio. You can also put web links in there as well. Can either of these be based on Safari? So oh no, you can't access the account. Okay. Unfortunately, it's not. With both Action Bound and Goose Chase, you need to have an ability to put the apps on. And this is why I've brought in, this is why I thought yesterday, actually, I was like, I'm going to show a third method of doing scavenger hunts without the need of an app. But there is a way around it. Again, using the same methodology, really. So hopefully this will help. But yeah, I really like Action Bound personally. I think I've used it for the last 3-4 years with our students. We've done it in like taskmaster style activities. And like I said, I've had students of all ages, not just young children. I've had staff who have done it. I've had training teachers. And it really does, it breaks up what could be sometimes monotonous activities and makes them a little bit more interesting. So some of the things we got here, find inclusion services, take a photo of the team by the academic support. I think that's actually the student union bar. So that's it. Take a photo of a race course with no horses. It's just a little bit of fun. So, but great questions. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, the next one. Now, the next one I want to look at, and here we go, it's ChatGPT, it's our good old friend. And I want to kind of go back in a way to how I first ever did scavenger hunts, going back about 6-7 years ago, looking at QR codes. And I had somebody who, when I told them we did the QR codes, and they went, "Oh, it's really old. That's a really old methodology. If it ain't broke, don't fix it." And I think with QR codes, they can really work quite well as a way of introducing still the same methodology of using scavenger hunts and how they're positioned. So what I've started with is ChatGPT, and this is only because I think with sometimes the creative side, I know myself, I'm trying to think of questions or clues and bits and pieces like that. I can personally quite struggle with it. So I'm going to show how to use QR codes, ChatGPT, and my good old favor, which is Canva, if you've not been using Canva before, to create a manual scavenger hunt, which doesn't require a great deal of, it doesn't need internet, it doesn't need those sorts of bits and pieces for you. So I've just gone on Canva and I'm going to create a simple scavenger hunt. Here we go. Using this here. I'm going to just call this one my scavenger hunt. And make a little bit of fun. And we're going to create some clues. Now, with something like ChatGPT, if you've not used it before, it's very, very clever at helping you to formulate ideas. Let's say, for example, I want a riddle. So I'm going to say create a riddle of around 20 words in which answer is library. Okay, very nice. Silent keeper of knowledge, housing endless tales of wisdom, seek me for answers, refuge in a world within worlds. Now, I can take that one. That's a so say for example, you have to go to that. So let's go back to my document, go to a place, answers, go. Now, someone asked a great question earlier and they said, well, can it be differentiated for different levels? And you kind of can do that. And the great thing with ChatGPT, it makes it a lot easier. So using the riddle above, rewrite, but make it more more suitable for, say, I'll try to put a for a 6-year-old reading skills. Just something very simple like this. There we go. So now I've got go to a place and you can differentiate it manually, but they're still going to the same thing. So I've got the same clue, but you may want to give it to different groups, but they all go to the same place and they all have to go do the same thing. I'm a quiet place full of books and stories. You come for me for answers and adventures. What am I? Okay. So the great thing again with something like ChatGPT is a really simple way of posing those sorts of questions. How else can we do it with ChatGPT? If you've not played with it, it is really, really clever. So I'm going to say here, create a riddle in which the answer is numeric and is 273. Okay. All right, so that's quite a high order one. So let's go rewrite this. Make it simpler and more fun using animals. Right, that really hasn't helped at all. For those who haven't played with ChatGPT, sometimes you've got to shout at it in words. Redo, but make it about adding up animals in a zoo. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So if you shout at ChatGPT, there you have it. So, you know, with something like this, here's my next question. What is the number of animals? But then at the same time, if you wanted to, if you had students who knew what the that one there, you could put that one in again. It really does. It starts to build on different methodologies and different ideas, and you can start to really put that together. Now, one of the big things I will look at is firstly, I'll tell my dog to be quiet. Stop it. Being noisy. Oh. He's old, so he likes to whinge and moan. One of the big things is the use of QR codes. And this is someone's put on the question, can these be used on Safari if people don't have internet access? And this is where QR codes can be really beneficial. So I'm using qrcode-monkey.com. There are quite a few free QR code generators that are out there. And with these, you have quite a few different options as to what the answer is at the end. So I can choose what the content is at the end. So let's say, for example, I can have it where it takes. So I could actually, let's say, for example, I want it to be YouTube horrible histories. Da-ba-da. Maybe they like horrible histories. Because a lot of time it's about that interactive element that makes it more interesting. This is, again, something that you can create for when you're at home. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, lovely. I'm going to take a URL. So the web address, there we go. And I'm going to put this into my QR code generator. And I can create the QR code. So there it goes. It's created my QR code. When I'm happy, I'll download that. Now, the benefit of this is, so maybe the question that I put in my scavenger hunt is, it could be, what was the date of the French Revolution? Use the video help. So it's just created my QR code. There it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scavenger hunt and I'm going to paste that in here. And I can put that my little bits and pieces for them. So that's always useful if they have access to internet sources around there. Again, that QR code could be to an audio file as well, which we'll get to. So let's say, for example, I want to have it take me to, so if I go to something on Vocaroo, so I'm just going to record something. Here is my answer, and this is what I think at the end. There we go. Save and share. I can actually copy that as a QR code as well. So let's say, for example, you want to put QR codes around your setting, around the classroom, and all the answers are verbal. Using Vocaroo, I can actually save my QR code. There we go. Put that on my scavenger hunt. So on the device, all the students would need to do is they'd open the camera, show it over the image, and what that'll do is it'll bring it up on the device and they press play. But my phone's on silent, so you can't hear it. If you want to scan it and hear my dulcet tones, it's just that one there. So again, you've got another way of, you can dot these QR codes around your setting. They go up to them, scan them, it'll play back that video file for them. Now, if you do not have Wi-Fi access and you're going around and about, there is another way of getting around this. And with QR codes, it can be either static or dynamic. So dynamic, it changes around or requires some form of internet access. But I can also have a text answer on a QR code. So let's go to my ChatGPT. So give me a riddle about thumbs. People that answer. There we go. I'm a fruit that's small and sweet with purple skin and a juicy tree. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to copy that one there. I'm going to go to my QR code. I'm going to pop that. So I've selected text, pop that in my text. And I'm going to go create QR code. And I'll download that. Now, what this does is that QR code is being generated. I don't need Wi-Fi access for it because it's going to take me straight to text. So let's take my QR code, go to my scavenger hunt file, which I've made. Again, you may want to put a picture of a pirate ship or something on there. You take your phone. Again, you don't need to have Wi-Fi access for this one. So I'm just going to take, I've just opened up the camera, show it over there, And what it'll do is it'll come up with a little box and it'll come up with the text, which I'm not sure if you can see at the top. You can't see it all. Actually, it's giving you the answer. It solved it for me, actually. That's because I got the Wi-Fi on. But it comes up with the text, which is, I'm a fruit that's small and sweet with purple skin and juicy treats. So again, you can create these, print them off, pop them around your setting where you are, and you can have that as another way of overcoming the offline issues that are there. And you can say there are, you could write on here, there are 10 clues dotted, and you've got to find where they are and scan them in. So it's quite a nice little top tip for you there. Again, with something like ChatGPT, it saves a huge amount of time. You may want to create a scavenger hunt. So create scavenger hunt. We'll say create 10 scavenger hunt fun clues, all based around Wales. So again, if you're trying to think how long is this going to take, you go, okay, well, use this to insight and get some new ideas and kind of help progress with that. But you've got a range of tools here: the QR codes, the Vocaroo, Action Band, which I really highly rate, and you've got Goose Chase. And you can combine it with ChatGPT or even your own creative noggin to really get some ideas going. So quite a lot there. If anyone has any questions or queries or anything at all, please pop them in the chat box because I'd love to answer them and I'm happy to help. But I hope that's been a little bit insightful to get you thinking about how we can use scavenger hunts to engage critically, not just with riddles, but with the audio, the video, and bits and pieces where they can submit as well. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat box. But thank you very much for coming along, and I hope that's been a useful guide for you. So the reaction from students and colleagues. Do you know what? When I first ever did it, I was a little bit worried because I was asking them to like do the YMCA shapes down the corridor. I was saying one of the questions was there to go take a photo with the inclusion team because it's quite an important team, and they loved it. They were like kids running off down a corridor, and these are people in their kind of 30s, 40s, 50s who really got involved with it. I think we got a bit daft with one year, and we were getting them to do like dancing. They had to record the dances, but do you know what? It was just about, I think, because it was so different from traditional other things that we've done, they just got involved with it. And I think sometimes as teachers or educators, we can really assume that people, they don't want to do that, they want to learn the facts, they want to move on. But actually, it was the inverse, and they really got involved with it. And the amount of them who, every time we had over the summer, we would kind of talk with the students. We'd look at, okay, what other things do they need to know in induction? Can we put it in the quiz? Is there another way of getting around it? So someone's put a great question there. What does it look like on the actual screen? How to verify Canva as an educator with a hub school? I would contact Canva directly on their thing. They do have a contact on there, and they're pretty on the ball with things. I know there is a school near us which has just done it. Yeah, exactly as you said, Maria. What I'll quickly show you is what it looks like on the screen, because I think you asked what does it look like. So if I go back to my bounds, so if I go to one that I've got here, you should be able to. So if we go test, not that one there. If I go to content, there we go. So what you see here on the left-hand side is kind of how it will look on the mobile phone. So it's quite simple in terms of the text element of it. What you'll see there, so when they've got to go find something, is what they see, which is the map. So they'll see that map element there. So it doesn't look too crazy. It's quite simple. I think the great thing with it is not too many buttons and bits and pieces for them, but it makes it quite accessible for all learners because the focus should be on the learning and not just the technology. But some great questions. Thank you. Much appreciated, guys. I hope you have a really lovely evening. It's been a real pleasure to see you and speak with you all. But I'll be here if you have any questions, pop them in. If not, have a lovely evening, and I will maybe see you all soon or in the future. Thank you very much, guys.